You're a part of the resistance.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome, everybody, to the Resistance broadcast. I'm John, that's James, that's Lacey, and we are live, baby! I want to thank Star Wars Celebration. I want to thank Lucasfilm for approving us for this podcast today, and I want to thank all of you who have taken time. There's a lot to do at Celebration. You decided to find this nook in the corner of this giant room and hang out with us for an hour, and then we're going to do photos after, of course. But thank you also. Round of applause to all of you for coming out here. And our special guest, as you see up front here, if you need to stand to take a look at him, BB-8. What better droid for the Resistance than BB-8? And I'm glad I didn't lose my voice doing my screams. So how you guys doing?
Doing great. Absolutely excited to be here and getting ready to do it. Let's go.
Daisy Ridley's back. And I'm wearing fur. Terrible idea, but we're going with it.
I think you sort of lost your voice screaming for her.
I did.
And I lost my voice screaming for Jonas when he came out for the Acolyte, playing a Jedi Wookiee. So, you know we love Jonas. We're trying to keep him employed. Make Solo 2 happen, right?
Yeah. The funny thing is I yelled so loud that I've seen multiple videos where I hear myself in other people's videos, and I feel bad because they're like, "Oh, look at this great announcement," and I'm in the back going, "Daisy Ridley!"
I think Daisy Ridley heard you.
I think she heard me, and she was probably like, "How does someone know?"
I never thought about it like that before.
My apologies to the actual British people.
Yeah. This is probably the worst place to do that.
I bet when they listen on the podcast, they're like, "What a jerk." All right, so it's a pretty standard TRB show. We like to keep things, there's going to be some more surprises, of course, but we're going to kick things off with our segment, Will of the Force.
I fear nothing, for all this, as the Force wills it.
He's there.
Yeah. Oh, look at that.
That's your segment, James.
All right, we're kicking it off with Will of the Force this week, and we got a couple questions. We've already picked them out. And the first one is going to be, we're going to kick it off with, will any of the Ghost Crew members die in the Ahsoka series?
That's dark. Who came up with that question?
I did, because Dave Filoni kills everyone. John goes, what should we ask? I was like, Dave Filoni's going to kill someone.
Everyone's like, I love how positive your podcast is. We're like, who's dying in the Ahsoka series?
I'm going to kick it off with John. What do you think?
I'm going to say no, because, I'm separating. I actually think Ahsoka might die in the Ahsoka series. Yeah, well, you hear the voice at the end of Rise of Skywalker, and the rest of those people are dead, I believe. So why not go out in a blaze of glory in your own series as opposed to somewhere else? That's just my thoughts.
However, Rosario was already talking about season 2, so she doesn't die this season.
Doesn't have to be this season. Maybe season 12, Longer, beat the record of The Walking Dead and do 40 seasons or something. But I'm going to say no to the Ghost Crew. I think they will survive this and go on to other stuff, whether that's back to animation or their own show. I don't think we're killing off live action Ghost Crew the minute we see them for the first time.
Yeah, what do you think, Lacey?
I think Dave Filoni's at a point right now that all his characters are now here. So he's not going to kill any of them because he'll kill everybody else. He's like, my characters are here. They're all safe. So I'm going to say no, they will not.
What do you think, BB-8? Let's go to you next. Okay, yeah.
Fair enough. Thanks, pal. Yeah, you all got that, right? Yep.
I'll hit up Google Translate later and see if I agree.
Well, we'll try another one and see what happens.
Yeah, for me, I think that they're going to stay alive. Because I think John brings up a good point that there is potential for the second season. And I have some other hot takes, too, about Ezra maybe or maybe not even being in this series very much at all. So I think there's a good chance that they're going to continue this or hope to continue this even potentially into Dave Filoni's thing. And I just really don't think, like, if you're going to do a climactic event in a movie, it doesn't make sense to be like, you know, Hera's not in it or Zeb's not in it or something. So I think at least for that first season, they're going to keep everybody alive.
Cool. Let's try another one with our friend here.
Yeah, so let's go on to question 2. Kathleen Kennedy did confirm with Donald Glover that the Lando series is still in development. If it goes into production, will Alden Ehrenreich's Han Solo return to the series? John, you're right. Let's kick it off with BB-8. What do you think, BB-8? Any chance we're going to get Lando back or Donald Glover?
You mean Alden Ehrenreich?
Yeah.
All right. Can anyone here help us translate what BB-8's
I
saying?
have no idea what he's saying.
Hang on. I might be able to help you with that.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Herring! What a surprise!
BB-8, I know Daisy's back, so you're probably needed with the Resistance, so thanks for your time, but it didn't go as planned.
What was the question?
I'll see you after, though.
Well, let's say farewell to our friend here first. Yeah.
Bye.
He has to go help Ray now that she's back.
Well, I hope he has to go and help Ray now he's back.
I love you.
Look at it, little fella. Look, going, bless him.
Slowly but surely. Let's give BB-8 a round of applause.
Thank you, BB-8. All right, what was that question?
Will Alden Ehrenreich return in the Lando series, if possible?
Oh, hey, Brian, do you want to get your feet wet here?
I don't see why he wouldn't.
All right.
You know, I thought, yeah, of course. Well, I don't know. I know as much as everybody else, but it would be lovely, wouldn't it?
Yes.
I think he did a fantastic job, and I'd love to see him do it again.
Some YouTubers like, Brian Herring confirms.
Yeah, I think it's
Brian
very
Herring
possible.
cannot confirm anything. Let's just get that straight right now.
Yeah, when we had Brian come on, I'm like, is there things we can't ask you? He's like, I know as much as you do. So, yeah.
I found out that Daisy was coming back at the same time you did.
Yeah.
So there you go. So
And you were probably like,
yeah. I was standing right behind her when she walked on because I was into one of those creature heads on the stage.
oh, wow.
So there she is. Look, which was nice.
Very cool.
Well, I think it's very possible that Alden returns for that series. I think it's a nice, simple way to test the waters with Lando and see if that hits, but also test the waters with bringing in characters from Solo that may or may not have hit, and they can, say maybe in a longer form they could bring him back. So I think that actually makes a lot of sense, and it would be a good way to kind of work him in.
Yeah.
Lacey, what do you think?
I think that they can't have this series without mentioning Han, or at least having him on screen at some point. We know him and Lando have such a close relationship and a friendship and kind of like a frenemies type thing.
Absolutely.
And I think that even a cameo is going to add to that relationship. We were just watching kind of like, it was playing on one of the screens, Return of the Jedi, where Han is trying to save Lando so desperately, and he's like, just grab this. I'm like, there's so much there that we don't know that got them to that point where they're so close. Like, we have to remember that Lando just betrayed Han. He woke up, and he still is trying to save Lando from dying. So I think that there's so much there that you can't have a series where Lando's going across the galaxy and not running into Han Solo.
Yep.
John?
I mean, I hope so, because I want to stop using that dang hashtag. But I think it'd be a nice compromise, because we know Solo didn't perform well, and not to the fault of the movie, as you and I actually talked about. It wasn't Alden's fault, it wasn't the movie's fault, and it was, I think maybe some marketing stuff like that. So I hope so. I think it'd be a great way to get them in, and if you're doing a series for Lando, who's a supporting character, I think you need a little more muscle in there. And with 12 episodes, why not give 2 to Han and Chewie working for Jabba, check in with them, maybe see why Han and Lando had that moment on the dock at Cloud City. To me, it's a no-brainer. So what do you guys think? Yeah? Yeah?
It would definitely be poetry and rhyme if Lando had to go, find Han to be like, I need to go see an old friend, and he goes and sees Han.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, let's move on to this last question here, and it's, will BB-8 and Grogu meet in a future Star Wars movie. Since we have Brian Herring on the
Is
panel,
Brian going to be employed? Is the question.
we're going to put you a little bit on the spot, and we're going to say, what do you think about BB-8 and Grogu potentially showing up in a feature film?
It's not beyond the realms of possibility, is it? But then nothing is. I don't know. Yeah, I assume they could do. They could, couldn't they? If we are assuming that Grogu makes it out of the Kylo Ren Jedi Academy thing.
That's dark, Brian.
Brian went darker.
Well, you know.
Spicy. Fair. That would be a lot of sad
It would be a lot. So I can't see that not being the case.
yeah.
You know,
Well, John, what do you think? Any chance we're going to get it?
I think Bob Iger would love that. From a money standpoint, you're gonna see the Black Series figure packs now of Rey with Grogu in her backpack or something like that, because she had Mark Hamill on her back, so she can carry Grogu. I think. I think it would just make a lot of sense. I went viral in a tweet, Lacey. You'd be proud of me. I tweeted out that the next movie is 15 years after Rise of Skywalker, which would put Grogu at 91 years old, and as Yoda told us in Empire. For 800 years have I trained Jedi, and he was 900, and my mom taught me how to do math. That would put Yoda at 100, so it's around that same age.
Mm-hmm. Lacey, is there any chance that BB-8 and I guess apparently you are going to show up in a feature film?
I would love to show up. I'm going to manifest that because people have been doing that a lot. I would love to be in a future film. So here's the thing. Would I want to see it? Yes. Currently, because of the timelines and where Grogu is, if they're making the Daisy movie by 2025, there's no way, because they want Grogu's story to play out before we get to Daisy. So I'm going to say no at this point, because
Interesting.
where we currently are in their stories, it doesn't make sense, because then you'd be flashing forward to him much older and then flashing back with the Mandalorian before their crossover event. It just would be a little confusing for people. You already have people still calling him Baby Yoda, so it would be confusing. They're like, oh, Yoda's back again?
Wow, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a
James,
good point.
I did not expect that answer from Lacey. Did you?
I'm gonna stick with what my heart tells me, although you're convincing me. But I'm gonna stick with what I thought would be the case, and that would be, of course, that yes, they would need to make that tie-in, and that just seems like the logical step. If I could maybe counter what you're saying, I'm thinking maybe there's a chance that they are okay with the fact that it skips around in the timeline. You know, we see this character Andor before he inevitably dies or whatever. We know certain characters' fate. We have convinced, Lucasfilm has convinced the Star Wars audience that it's okay to know sometimes where certain characters end up. It's about the stories that we're telling at the moment. That's why Clone Wars is successful. We know where Obi-Wan ends up. We know where Anakin ends up. But we still enjoyed those stories just the same as we would any other story in Star Wars.
Right on.
So that is going to take us out of that section, and we're going to go ahead and move into our discussion.
Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
All right, so we have a great guest for this discussion. Lacey called it Gaga for Grogu, and this is the creatures and droids that we love in Star Wars. So we're basically just having an open chat at this point. Now we're not, now we're not sort of taking our turns. We're just going to have a discussion about these integral parts of the Star Wars story, because anytime I tell people I love Star Wars, they say, well, I don't like science fiction. And I don't think Star Wars is science fiction. I think it's a fantasy story, classic fantasy story that happens to take place in outer space. And what makes Star Wars so cool are these creatures and droids. And I don't know, anybody get a chance to see yesterday the Creatures Cantina panel that Brian hosted? How amazing of a job did he do on that?
Not so much hosted, more kind of rode along until it finished.
I think you should host more panels, to be honest.
Absolutely.
But let's just talk about it. You know, any aspects of this we want to get into. But Brian, you know, I'll start with you, being that you've actually worked on Star Wars films with creatures, with droids.
Mm-hmm.
Being on set, working on these things, how important is it to just the culture of making the movie and getting people inside the fictional, you know, galaxy and what it brings to the screen?
What, as far as the creatures are concerned and what they bring to it? Well, from an aesthetic level, they're just part of the fabric of the galaxy. And I love the fact that you just see things walking past and you don't know what they are, and you just sometimes don't even see the whole thing. I mean, there's things in A New Hope where you just see 2 legs go across the screen. You don't know what's on the top of that. And a lot of the time, we refer to some of our work as walking wallpaper.
Yes.
Because it's just in the background. Everything doesn't always get a close-up. Yeah. And, I mean, one of the things that Neil and the guys really have to think about is sometimes something you've made to be a background alien, they suddenly decide, oh, we need that at the front. So everything's got to have some kind of an expression in it, just in case they give it a big, giant wide, big close-up. So everything has kind of got to have, not necessarily a backstory, because that's Pablo's job. He kind of goes around. Always fun when you see Pablo Hidalgo walking around set naming stuff. He's got a little pad and he looks at
After like an old college roommate or something.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. He's in there just writing names down. But everything, Lucas used to talk about that lived-in galaxy, that lived-in universe thing. So everything, you look at the costumes, they're all a bit kind of ratty or they're not, or they're really, really smart and Canto Bite and things like that. But you kind of get a sense that every creature has a life somewhere, rather than just being an alien sitting in a corner. Yeah. And that's sort of really a testament to the designers and the costume people and all the fabricators. But I love the fact that the place is just wall-to-wall monsters. I mean, it's interesting that Andor had huge lumps with no creatures in it.
Yeah, that's true.
And then when there were places where there were places for creatures, there were lots of them. So
right.
it was this really weird balancing act they did, actually.
Yeah. And, speaking of creatures with kids, Lacey, you had mentioned that your daughter, not creatures with kids, creatures and how kids like them. Sorry.
I have a feeling you're going to pay for that.
You had mentioned that your daughter has taken to Grogu. Yeah. So it's just a proven point that creatures and droids are very important to introducing kids to Star Wars. Because sometimes Star Wars, like if you watch the beginning of A New Hope, it's a slow burn. And you see C-3PO and R2 going through the desert. But we need those things to attract kids into the franchise.
Yeah, so, when I had a child, my creature self had a child, a lot of people always ask me, like, oh, are you going to get her into Star Wars? Are you going to show her things? I mean, I named her after Daisy Ridley. Are you going to get her into Star Wars? What if she doesn't like it? I let her kind of figure it out on her own. And again, she's only a year and a half. But she came into my office one day, and Grogu was sitting right there. She walked right up, grabbed it, walked out, has been walking around with it ever since. She knows, like, 5 words: mama, dada, wawa, and, like, Grogu. Those are the only words that she knows, and I'm not kidding. She's also very obsessed with BB-8. She comes into the office, presses the button, has him talk. She tries to carry him around. It's like one of those big ones, but... Yeah, creatures are so important to Star Wars. They're what got me into it. I am a big fan, and I loved hearing yesterday in the Creature Cantina from Matt Denton, was Labyrinth is something that I grew up with that I immediately was like, this world is amazing. And of course it came from Jim Henson and George Lucas, so it's no surprise that I'm connected to that. But it's just the idea of these creatures, and I loved when you go into any scene, there's all these different things from all different places, and they all have their own stories and names. But even more important than that, I loved that there are people in them, like making them work. I love the puppetry stuff. That's why I love Babu Frick and Shirley Henderson, and I love the stories behind those creatures. I was geeking yesterday. I was like going down the stairs going, Creature Cantina, because I'm just so hyped.
And then the Light and Magic, I'm sure everybody saw that, like seeing the just physical, grueling things that people like Phil Tippett put themselves through, going underneath a stage and for 6 hours just doing stop motion stuff, just because, and he says he loves doing that. Like that would be my nightmare, claustrophobic, one place for 6 hours, and George Lucas like demanding perfection, but them wanting to make him proud. It's just, I don't think, like there's a lot of panels that go on in Star Wars Celebration, but I think we always have to make sure that we respect the ones who started this stuff, as you alluded to yesterday in the panel, because without them, and they didn't have the technology they had today either, so they had to really just piece these things together. I love history. I love those J.W. Rinsler books, The Making of Star Wars, and acknowledging the people who paved the way so that Brian and this generation can send us to a galaxy far, far away and it feel real, you know?
My critiques of the newer Star Wars movies, with the exception, I think, of Solo, which had so many creatures, is there's never enough creatures for me. Like, I always want more.
That's usually like a Disney Plus thing too.
Yes,
like when
like,
people,
give me
I think,
more. And then even like going into merchandising and like Hasbro, I'm always like, can you make more creatures? I have enough stormtroopers. Can you make me more creatures? I feel like Solo was a prime example, and one of the many reasons we love it is that there are scenes that there are just so many aliens and droids and all these things that every time you watch it, you find something new.
Yeah.
And that's what makes Star Wars special to me, amongst other reasons, is that these things are just creatures that you could never imagine. And like the idea that you could walk in and just meet someone that's like having this crazy life, and they all have their own languages and like ways that they operate. It's so cool.
it makes things believable for sure. I love that you talked on how a lot of these aliens are the background characters, because in my thought, it's like you can't film like Dune in this room, right? You know, it wouldn't work. You have to have a set that obviously builds into the world to make that believable, right? And when you're having Star Wars, these droids and these creatures walking around and making noises and the way they kind of move, just it takes 5 minutes for a character to get from there to there, whatever, during a scene. It's part of the atmosphere that makes up the scene and makes the whole thing believable. And one of the things that we saw yesterday, which was so amazing and really got me thinking, was how far we've come as far as like animatronics and the capabilities and electronics. Because it used to be like, for all the hate sometimes that the special edition gets, it's incredible how much more lifelike a lot of the scenes in that is compared to what was originally shot, which is very noticeably just a man in a weird mask or
I
something
love
along
that.
those lines.
Give me all puppets, all dudes in masks. I prefer that over CG.
Yeah, whether it's the technology of a computer animated character, or it's obviously how far we've come with the molding and masks and technology that, like just yesterday on the panel, Brian, we saw a creature completely come to life and was on stage, full facial expression, talking, and I was
60
like,
servers, yeah.
that's an alien. Like, we are looking at a live alien right now, and I watched the actor become an alien on stage, but by the end of it, it was incredibly believable.
And well, I just want to say that wasn't an actor. That was someone.
Cosplayer, right?
They picked, they chose from the convention.
And Brian, you were a creature in Solo, right?
Yes.
So first of all, what was it like being on the set of Solo? I don't want to get into the whole, two directors thing or whatever, but what was the experience making the film? Was it a positive, fun environment? Did it feel pressured? And tell us about your experience playing the creature.
They're always both of those things. They're both positive, fun environments, and there's always pressure because everybody wants to make a good movie, and they want you all to like it, it was. I enjoyed working on Solo. Solo for me is of all the ones that we made, it's the one I probably watch the most, just because I feel it's.
That's
really,
right.
That's what we've been saying.
For me, it really captures the spirit of the original. It's got that kind of and I like that. And it's a western, and it's a really sort of dirty universe. It's a frontier. It's that sort of thing. I really enjoyed it. And so I'm just trying to think. I did a few things in Solo. There's a character that I was wearing on the Lucasfilm panel. The thing called Hiram Biring. I don't know where they got that name from. Good old Pablo just mixed the letters up.
John always jokes that he wishes they were like, it's Steve.
Yeah. I mean, we had Owen, we had Luke, we had some normal names early on, and now they're like Tikulaka.
Yeah. But I had this parrot face thing, and it was in the movie twice. It was standing behind Lando in the Sabak game when he won the first time. And then they dressed him completely differently, and he was on the yacht. He was on Dryden's yacht, so I just think it's his posh cousin. Just gone somewhere else. But that scene, the Sabak scene, was very, very hot because we were all crammed in that scene.
It looks hazy in the movie.
Yeah, it is. And there were
it looks
a lot
like
of
it has
people.
a smell.
Yeah, it did have a smell. And there were a lot of supporting artists in there. There were a lot of creatures, and it was an uneven set as well.
How long was that shoot?
Oh, you know, I can't remember. It was weeks. I mean, it was a couple of weeks, I think.
Weeks of smell.
The weeks of smell. And of course, that set, once you went into it, I think there were 2 entrances into it. One of them was past the droid fighting pit, and you went past that pit and then up some stairs into another little room, and that came out into the sabacc room. And then you could go round that, out the other way, down some stairs, where you saw in the trailer as Alden walked up with the big creature's head above the doorway, and that went into a bar. And then that was the other. Yeah. So it was a kind of a big oblong set, right. And there were 2 entrances at the far end, and there were, I suppose, probably about 100 people in there at any given time. Oh, wow. Plus the crew.
Yeah. You had said yesterday about Canto Bight being probably the most creatures. Is that true? What was that, like 70 you said?
I think it was something like, there was 58, 60, something like that.
Wow.
And each creature, we explained in the panel yesterday that each creature has got, usually somebody's, like a suit creature, has got somebody inside it, somebody on the face, possibly a second person on the face. And then there'll be probably 2 people looking after them. Makeup, not makeup, fabrication.
Like time and stuff, right?
Yeah, fabrication. Hair is sometimes there as well, if it's got fur. There'll be somebody from costume. And so that's 6 people, all looking after each character. So if you then put 58 characters in, that support crew is huge. So with something like Canto Bight, people just hiding places. And they get it, and then they put the SAs in as well. All supporting artists are in there, and they're all walking about in their black and white finery. And then someone shouts action, and it all goes. And they shout cut, and all these people just appear out of nowhere. They're running in, they're just opening mouths and putting in converted leaf blowers.
Right.
So you just put
like give them a shot of water or something? Or?
Well, yeah, you can sometimes if there's a straw that goes in, and so they'll put in these leaf blowers just to blow air around the creature's heads. And sometimes there's more than one person in a creature. You know, sometimes the
Happabore?
The Happabore had 5. Right. The Happabore is the thing that on Jakku at the beginning where it's drinking from the water trough.
It pushes Finn over,
Yeah, it pushes Finn over. There were 5 guys inside that. There were 4, there was 1 in each leg and 1 in the head. So they had a foot
We're
inside.
talking about smell.
Well, they were in the desert.
You ever shared a college dorm with somebody?
Yeah, they were
probably a little worse.
Yeah, they were in the desert as well, and the heat was blistering. Although actually they were pretty good because what would happen is they'd be stood ready to go, and they had an air conditioning unit that was, for all intents and purposes, stuffed into its backside. It actually came in through one of the leg holes.
Pretty hot in these rhinos.
So there were these guys who would run in, throw this tube into the back of this thing, blow cold air into it until they were kind of ready to go, and then the support team would come in, run, take the chocks out from underneath it so they were supporting the
stuff you don't hear.
They all had weight up. They were all carrying the weight.
Like the opposite of a sauna.
Yeah, exactly. But actually, they were probably in the best place because
the shade.
By the time they were in the shade and they were really cool.
Wow.
And then by the time they'd done their take, it started to heat up again.
Meanwhile, you're in the background running in the sand.
I was going to say, how hard is it to push him in the sand?
It wasn't.
Are your calves? Are your calves?
They were. They were. I realised that very early on in the process of it, Josh Lee, who is BB-8's dad, he kind of came up with a way to do him, and he's covered in it was an experimental type of vinyl. And so Josh gave me a mock-up of just a ball with an axle, as the puppet version of BB-8 has. And there was no head or anything. And he just said, go around the back lot and see if you can dent this. So I took it out onto the back lot. Because they wanted to see how the vinyl would react to terrain, rocks, whether it was scuff.
So you just got to beat the heck out of it.
So I just ran around and bumped into stuff and rolled it
Imagine
about.
someone like on their lunch break, they're just like,
yeah, what happened to Brian?
The stuff.
Brian get fired?
The stuff you see, people testing things. I mean, they have to be very, very secretive about a lot of it. So,
sure.
But when you're on a movie and it's sort of your compound, you can kind of run around. So I ran this thing around the back lot once, and suddenly realised I was a man of a certain age that hadn't seen the inside of a gymnasium. So I thought I better go and work out for this because I didn't want there to be a documentary with some sort of young puppeteer
I'm just picturing
Yeah.
a Rocky montage now with you with this ball.
There was a bit
exactly.
of that, but I didn't want there to be some young puppeteer on a making of, because I've been waiting like 37 years to make that movie. And he goes, "Oh yeah, we had a guy. He was old. He died. You know, he died in the desert, and we buried him." You know?
Brian, did you ever come across the comments from Neil deGrasse Tyson about BB-8 rolling in sand?
Yeah, I did come across.
Did you take a personal offense to that?
Well, first of all, I didn't know who he was. No, and that's not a slight. It just he hasn't really travelled. It hasn't, you know, like he's huge in the States and very well respected and everything, I believe. And
Explain that, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
But I'm like, well, yeah, I always a lot of the time, I always default to something Harrison Ford said in an interview once, which is, "It's fake and it's in space." So of course it wouldn't roll in sand. It could, you know, it wouldn't. And, you know, it's. So, but I heard about it and went, yeah, no, it wouldn't, because it's not real.
James, do you have a favorite Star Wars creature or droid? Or one of each?
Favorite Star Wars creature, honestly, like right off the top of my head, Six Eyes from Solo.
Oh, and he was.
I think like one of my favorite things is honestly, oddly, not even in the movie. It was that original clip that Lord Miller put out.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And they were like, "We can't show you anything," and they like the camera bumps over and Six Eyes is like, and every one of the eyes were moving, and it just was like immediately this big anticipation of, I can't wait to see that. And they chose that character to be the one that was promoting that movie.
And there
for
were
a
like blue
reason,
screens
in my
around it,
opinion.
right, and stuff?
What?
There were
Yeah.
like blue screens and all that?
Yeah, because they were on set, and they were like, "We're on set, but we can't show you anything." Oh, the camera bumps over, and you turn, you know, this whole thing.
Well, there were people on set for that show watching it on the monitors, who were they were offset watching it on the monitors, and they'd gone, "How are they doing this CGI this fast?" And they're like, "This is amazing. They're rendering this thing in real time." And somebody went, "No, it's there. Go and they would walk them onto set, and people were like, "No." And that was Derek Arnold in the head. Another one of, you know, Matt Denton's amazing programming jobs, and I think Gustav Hogan mech'd it. And Matt had put some kind of telemetry system into it, I believe. So when Derek moved his head, the eyes would sweep and just settle. So they would move slightly with his head. And then there was a whole puppetry system as well that Matt was involved in. And each one of those eyes could move individually as well. They were mostly slaved together.
In the movie, he like spies on the cards by moving one of his eyes. That's what Solo's so funny.
You'd have to ask Matt how that worked, but I think you can unslave one of them.
That's cool.
And just move it. You can puppeteer it independently. He knows all about this stuff. I'm not.
So,
Quite amazing.
Lacey, how about you?
As a creature myself.
Oh my God. Rest of the night.
I told you were going to pay for that.
We're going to go to the bar, and she's going to be like, "This creature and this guy need a drink."
You know, I think this is honestly the toughest question I ever have, because it's like picking a favorite child. If you were to ask me years ago, I'd probably say Jabba the Hutt, just because it's so sick.
That's a good pick, though.
Yeah.
There's so many people inside of it, and the way it animates, and it's like got all that goo. And I love like the clips of Carrie talking about him, like how like just terrible he is. Like she's like, he's a slug, he's disgusting, he's awesome. But now it's definitely Babu Frick, 100%.
Oh yeah.
Babu Frick is so amazing.
There's a Babu.
Yes!
All right.
Yes! Babu Frick is amazing. He's not in the movie enough. I hope they bring him back. I know that obviously there's Inzellins, which are my favorite part of The Mandalorian. But just the story around it, that Shirley Henderson learned puppeteering so that she could be on set, so that she could give the performance she wanted to give. That means more to me than anything else. Like, when I hear someone goes that extra mile as an overachiever myself, I'm just like, that's it. Like, she's the best. They're the best. And I believe you helped with Babu, didn't you?
I did a lot of the early R&D for Babu, so Neil tasked me, and 1, 2, 3, 4.
And you see the pictures. It's like five
for
people
the-
going
wearing green again.
Yeah, there were 5 of us. And so I did all the R&D and all the rehearsals for it, and then it was becoming rapidly apparent that BB-8 was probably going to be on camera at the same time as Babu. So I
Tough break.
Yeah, so I stepped out. Yeah, so I stepped out of him, brought Damien Farrell. Just sometimes you just got to let it go. You know? But no, and then I think they just did an amazing team. I think who was on the? It was Matt and Shirley on the face. Claire Roy Harvey, who was in the telemetry suit for Maz, she was on the hands, and then there was someone on. Damien was on the head and the left arm.
Wow.
Then Richard was on the.
It's like a game of
body.
Twister. They're like, you got red dot, I got
I think
green.
it was on the body.
You're visualizing this right now.
I am. There's someone on
The
the
memory
body.
in there
I'm trying to think
somewhere.
who else
Yeah.
was
He
on
looks
the
like he's.
Yeah, so
he's
Richard
taking-
was on the body. I think Alison was on the feet, and then Wim was on the other arm.
Wow.
So there was not a lot of real estate behind there. They were
Yeah.
all crammed in together.
That's what all the pictures and like the footage in the documentary, which I love that documentary. If you haven't seen it, like the Legacy of the Skywalkers or whatever it's called. What is it called?
Oh.
Skywalker's
Legacy.
Legacy
Yeah,
of Star
Skywalker
Wars.
Legacy. The Skywalker
Yes.
Legacy. Yeah.
Whatever. It's awesome.
It is awesome.
And
I
there's a
cried
whole
out of the
segment about like the Babu Frick scene and like
Yeah.
all the work they do there. And I just loved how because they were doing it live with the actors and with JJ, he was cracking up so much because Shirley was just like kind of improving.
Yep.
I love that. And I think that's another piece of the creatures that's so special, as we even saw it yesterday on your panel, is people improv. They just go with it. And it just feels so genuine. And that's what I love about it. Like it's not planned in advance. It's just whatever happens, and that's the take they usually
That's the really nice, the lovely thing about having a creature physically on set. And
Right.
Same with BB-8. When I first met Daisy, she said, "Are you going to do the voice on set?" Because R2 never spoke to C-3PO through those whole things. So Anthony had to just make up the responses and time his responses to R2 according to what he thought he'd said.
The level of that guy's talent is insane.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
like
Amazing,
miming, also
absolutely amazing.
acting,
He's
also
awesome.
improving,
He
and
is
he's in
awesome.
this like everything. Yeah.
That makes me think of Kenny Baker, who you know a lot of people don't really talk about anymore, but he's in this tin can, sweating, having to rotate this thing with wires wrapping around his throat almost. And you see the new technology today. We just had a droid-built BB-8 come in here and wheel right out by himself. But you know, Kenny Baker had to rock that thing. And anytime, if you don't know this, I think it might be in Empire Dreams, but there's certain like pipe tubes in R2's legs, and whenever he has those are Kenny Baker's legs covered up with these casings. Whenever he doesn't, it's something that they were able to remotely move. So next time you watch like A New Hope or Empire and you see those little tubes at the bottom inside the legs, that means you know Kenny Baker's in that suit. But yeah, like, can we get a round of applause for like an OG like Kenny Baker for like going old school so that now we can have this new technology for these new droids?
But there were people in it for Last Jedi and for The Rise of Skywalker. Jimmy V was inside.
Oh, right.
The Last Jedi, and for Rise of Skywalker was Hassan Taj. So they really wanted to get back to that.
And they kept it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, so
Do you
I
have
like
a
that.
favorite creature? I know it's like literally picking one of your children.
Well, no, I mean, Yoda was always. I mean, Yoda from a puppetry point of view, because it's just a stunning performance. I mean, what's wonderful is that Frank is just acting his arm off.
A legend.
You know, just
Yes.
completely brilliant. Chewie was always my favourite as a kid. Used to absolutely love Chewbacca, and it's if you have ever had the thrill of seeing Chewbacca come out of an easy up, which is one of those sort of little gazebo things they put up for us to get changed in on set, and Chewie comes out. I don't think you ever see him without his head on, especially if there's guests on set. And but Jonas is, I think I don't know how tall he is.
6'11", I think.
6'11", and then the shoes got lifts, and the head is quite
I
tall.
look like Babu Frick next to him.
Right, yeah, everybody
Yeah.
looks like Babu Frick
Yeah, we
next to
took
him.
a
so-
photo with him. I'm 6'1", and I
Yeah.
was like,
So when he comes out of that easy up, he has to duck right down, and then he just raises up to his full height. And there's a sort of very, very sweet thing. This tiny little girl came to visit set, and I mean she was really wee, and Chewie came out, and she really wasn't sure about this, so she backed right off. And Jonas does, because Jonas also does all that stuff on set as well. So
that's cool.
he called this little girl over, he sort of crouched down, and he pointed to the bag on the bottom of Chewie's bandolier, opened it up and pointed inside, and she put her hand in. It was a bag of sweets.
Oh my God.
It was really cute.
As if I couldn't love that guy more.
Yeah.
I know, he's the best.
And he's he's saying keep going with Make Solo 2 happen, even though he's a Jedi now. He's
Which
good.
I love that for him, because I don't know if anybody remembers, like, years ago he did an interview and they were like, who would you want to play if you weren't Chewie? And he's like, well, I'd like to be a Wookiee again, just like a Jedi one. And now he actually
manifesting, right? That word. Yeah. My favorite, I mean, Chewie's definitely a go-to. But for like a deep cut obscure one, it's actually a CG, but they probably made models of it, is Jacked Fish from The Phantom Menace. So that
Brian's like,
I don't even know what that is.
so I've got a pin of him over there, and I have a shirt, but it's that fish, the bigger fish, the one that grabs the fish, bites it off like a grenade,
Isn't it the
and
sand
throws the rest away,
just
and it's just like right here. I think it's called a Sando Aqua Monster.
Oh, why didn't you say that in the first place?
Because jacked fish is a lot cooler, right?
Brian's like, I've been in the creature department. That's not in there.
Yeah. So, in terms of what's your favorite movie for Star Wars creatures, James?
Oh, I mean, I want to say Solo because that's immediately where it is, but I actually kind of think I might go Last Jedi because of the Canto Bight scene.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I know we have that immediate shot that goes right through, and it's so amazing. And every single time, my eyes are just like going left, right, up, down, every direction, trying to spot something that I haven't seen. And it was sort of rewarding as well when they released certain books. There was a book called Canto Bight, and it took you through multiple stories, through some of the creatures, but then to actually go to the movie and be like, I know that one, and oh, there they are, now they're live action. And so it was a huge payoff the way they rolled out their journey to books. And so Last Jedi really sticks out to me.
I didn't think you'd go with Last Jedi. That's cool. I think I know what yours is, but go ahead.
Go ahead. What do you
Return
think?
of the Jedi.
You know what? It was going to be that, and then it was Solo in my head. I'm actually going to go with TFA. When they go through Maz Kanata's castle, and it's like, da, 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 da.
Oh, yeah.
That part where the camera flies through,
Yeah.
and there's so
Yeah.
much stuff there. When they blew that castle up, I was like, we can have nothing nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Grumgar definitely didn't make it out of there. He's that big dude who's like...
You
chilling
saw him
with
on the stage on the Lucasfilm Showcase, yeah. There's just so much stuff there, and that's another scene where it happens so quickly that every time you go back, you're like, what is that? What is that? What's
I'm
going
in
on?
that shot.
Tell us more,
Well,
Brian.
I'm actually in that shot. It was my real last-ditch attempt to be in Star Wars. Because I was originally going to be... the character. It was one of the original releases of the action figures. He's got like a green face and red robes and a big kind of shotgun thing.
He's used to wearing green. All green.
It was. I can't remember its name now.
Is it the peg-legged
Is
person?
it Jeff?
No. It was. So in the first lineup of the characters they made that Hasbro made as toys.
Oh, okay.
It's one of those, and I was fitted for the costume, and I was scanned, so the action figure is me.
Oh, that's awesome.
But I didn't play it in the movie.
Do you have one of them?
No. It's. I can't remember his name now. But I was going to play that, and I'm like, great, I've got an action figure. This is all I want. I wanted an action
That's the
figure.
dream, right?
This
As a
is
creature
before- this is
performer?
before
Somebody find out what his name was.
This is before the BB-8. What?
Someone knows?
I can't remember. I can't.
Zuvio.
No, it wasn't Zuvio.
No, that was the first action
That would
figure,
just-
and then, yeah.
I would be, if I'd have played Custom
Who's
with
that?
Zuvio, I would have been dining out on that for 1,000 years. But so, then I didn't get to play that in the film. I'm like, okay, I just wanted to be there. And then if you look on that shot, you follow the little kind of thing that was from the Ralph McQuarrie concept art
Yes.
that Paul Warren plays. You follow that in. And then off to the right-hand side, there is a gaming table with a whole load of balls, like little balls of snakes just kind of smashing each other up. And we were kind of working out how we were going to do it, and then we were going to do it through the table and that kind of thing. And I said, well, why don't you just put us all in costumes and we can have these things on green rods, and then we'll look like we're smashing the table because we're all kind of, go on, go, get them, but we're actually puppeteering the things directly in front of us.
Oh, that's good.
So that's myself, Phil Woodfine, and Dave Chapman.
You remind me, I don't know if you've ever seen it, Mean Girls, but you remind me of the person in the back who's like, she doesn't even go here. You're just like, how about a puppeteer?
Yeah, totally. That's it. Yeah, we can do that. We'll do it. So that was we got thrown into that shot, which was quite fun. And I've managed to be. I've been filmed on in every one since, but I'd not necessarily made the cut.
So, what's your favorite Star Wars movie with creatures? Is it one you were in, or are you going to be
I think
non-biased here?
As far as being absolutely iconic, Jabba's palace in Return of the Jedi is just...
That's my pick too, so there you go.
Yeah, just fantastic.
Fist bump.
Yeah, and also I think because of the age I was, and those characters have really stayed. When I started the panel yesterday, I started talking about Walrus Man. And I know his name's Ponda Baba now, but he'll always be Walrus Man to me. That'll always be Snaggletooth, and here comes Hammerhead, you know, because that's what we had, you know. So those characters, the Return of the Jedi characters in the band, and I always, you know, whenever, you know, people kind of get upset about Star Wars, this isn't serious enough, this is getting silly.
Yeah.
I always like to put up a picture of the blue elephant playing the piano with his feet.
Exactly. Right.
So that's just, you know, it was all.
Give
it was
me
ever
more
thus.
silly. Are you kidding me? All the Mando episodes where there's like Enzellan stuff or like funny moments, those are my favorite parts.
Yeah.
I know Bo-Katan getting the saber is important, but like.
And there's good silly and there's bad silly. But well, I didn't like the last Mando episode. Everybody knows that that's the only one I didn't like. But I'll say this: Return of the Jedi also for me, because I did this thing. So I rewatched Return of the Jedi and made sure I diverted my eyes from where they usually go. Because usually when I watch a movie, it always goes to the same spot. Mm-hmm. And I saw, like, for the first time ever, I never noticed this. Maybe all of you have. Maybe I'm the stupid one. There's a Jawa fanning Jabba from behind to keep him cool. And then they added like a Sebulba type of creature in the special editions to go down the stairs before Luke comes down the stairs. It's just like, if you watch like Return of the Jedi, especially that Jabba's palace scene, you may have seen that movie 5 billion times. Andrew, I'm sure you have. You'll look around and you'll see something you've never seen before in a 40-year-old movie.
That'll be walking wallpaper.
Yes.
Yeah. That's exactly my point. And what you were saying earlier about there not being enough figures of the creatures.
I'm like, guys, please.
As a kid, though, they're the ones I played with the most, because we knew about Luke, we knew about Han, we knew who they were. So, but this dude can be anybody.
Yeah.
So he's the new pirate, he's the new captain.
And you
he's
got to
the
make
whatever.
the story,
and
because
you made the stories
yeah.
up. You know, it's one of the conversations I had with Anthony about his red arm. Was like, for me, that would have been, as a kid, I'd have played how you got that red arm. You know, the comics weren't, you know, now there's so much more exposition all over the place. But
Stop
for me,
explaining
you get to tell the story.
I got to tell the story in my head, you know, in my bedroom, playing
like
with the
that.
toys. And
I
that
like that
was
too.
for me the thing that fired my imagination. So I kind of liked more non-specific alien characters to play with as a kid.
That's a great
because
point,
that really kind of got me fired up about Star Wars and stories and that kind of stuff.
I don't know if you're allowed to talk about this, so this might be a tricky question. Are there any creatures that you know of or that you used that didn't make it into a film or a TV show?
There are all sorts of creatures that never see
Because there is this one from Rise of Skywalker. It's a giant baby head. It's very big. It's red. I've seen a picture with Neil Scanlon with it, and we didn't get it. So are there any creatures that, like, you could maybe explain, or like what they looked like, that just didn't make the cut?
There's all sorts of stuff. Well, interestingly, I can't really talk about that one. Because
It exists.
But
Baby head
No, it
exists.
does exist, because you've seen photographs of it.
Yes.
It exists. It's there. I did see it. And, you know,
Eat that, Neil Tyson deGrasse.
But there are lots of stuff that sometimes just don't make it in or don't make the cut of the film.
Sure.
They get filmed on and then just get edited
Because
out.
of the director, like JJ would be like, nah.
Well, no, because you can't make 4-hour Star Wars films, you know.
You could.
But you
I think a lot of people wanted that.
Yeah.
I mean, James
you know-
Cameron's telling people, like, look, my movie's going to be 7 hours, and there's nothing you can do about it, so.
Yeah, but you know, the angles change and
Yeah.
things happen, so things just get lost. I mean, there were a lot of things that were made for Rogue One
Oh, cool.
that didn't make it. And then, hilariously, most of them got sent to the Spice Mines of Kessel.
Oh, for the chase.
So
for
there's
the-
lots of things in Kessel that were made for other movies. Neil was talking about this yesterday on the panel, that sometimes things get repurposed.
Right.
So you just take it out, give it a new outfit. As I say, I got used twice in Solo as a different creature. So you see things coming back, and also you see things. I'm seeing things now appearing in the US shows that have been sent over, that were built. Like the Rio Durant, there was a puppet of Rio Durant as well as the CG version.
Wow.
And in the Mando episode where they're on the prison ship rescuing the two Twi'lek
Yeah.
You see these 4 little hands go to the door, and you just see the top of his head. That was the Rio puppet.
Oh.
Now, it probably wasn't supposed to be Rio,
Right.
but it was.
It's funny you bring this up because my next question was going to be: is there anything that people miss, like that are in the films that no one ever that you're like, this is so cool? Did you see this?
Well, that talks to, speaks to what you just said about the fact you just saw that Jawa for the first time 40 years
Right.
later. So there probably is stuff.
Yeah.
But there's so much going on in
Yeah.
all of these things, and just characters that never get seen. It's crazy.
Can you talk about in Solo Luleo Primac, the like singing guy in the jar? Like, how did that work?
Oh yes, okay, that was okay because I did the eyes on that.
You did the eyes.
I did the eyes on that. And Claire Roy Harvey, who I go back to again, who was in the
gosh.
Maz costume and did Babu Frick.
Because it's in liquid, so right.
Yeah, so that was it was because it's the thing is floating,
Right.
so it's on some kind of like little hydraulic ram, and Claire had her hand through the back of it, so the whole thing was watertight.
Right.
And it was just, we always said it looked like a chicken in wine vinegar. But because it was just kind of like this crazy thing. And so it was just a straight hand puppet. And so Claire's in her full green glory behind it. And it's going up and down. I don't know if she made it go up and down just by bringing her hand up because it was on a pretty good sort of...
He's my
hydraulic.
favorite character in Solo.
Yeah, it's great fun. I'm always kind of bemused as there's no recorded music in Star Wars. There's always a band on. Wherever they go, there's always a band.
right,
You know?
true.
Yeah, we talked with John Powell about how he created Chicken in the Pot and how there's multiple versions in different languages.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, you talk about the different language thing. I think the fascinating thing about Jabba is that Jabba was shot in English and then redubbed. And if you watch Jabba's lips and read, Jabba is saying what's on the subtitles. Because they just redubbed it into Huttese, but it was done in English. So if you watch it now...
He wouldn't have been as cool if he was speaking English.
No, that's right. But
I think we're all going to watch Return of the Jedi for the first time.
and you just see him talking. Yeah. And it's, he goes, your Jedi powers won't work on me, boy. Or whatever the line is. But then it doesn't match the lips. So it's a funny thing. Yeah.
Well, how about some questions?
Yeah, let's get into the next section.
Yeah.
I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
Ask the resistance. All right, but John, do you want to do this before we move into the actual Ask the Resistance section?
Yes. So we have one of these left each, a Solo 2, Make Solo 2 Happen enamel pin that we gave out in Anaheim last year, and vinyl sticker. So if you have a Make Solo 2 Happen shirt on, raise your hand, and I will disappoint about 5 of you, and 1 of you will be happy. So.
If only I'd known.
And while that's happening, if anybody has a question,
Yeah, we're going to take some questions.
also raise your hand. Yeah, go ahead. First of all, what's your name? Where are you from? What's your favorite color?
Mark home from Edinburgh, and I want to know which of the 3 movies, you were excited about.
Which of the 3 upcoming movies are we the most excited about is the question from Mark. Marco. Nice to meet you, Marco.
I'll just
You didn't tell me your favorite color, though. I'm just joking. Go ahead.
I'll quickly say Mangold because he's directing and writing it, and in my opinion, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, we got to see 6 minutes of it, which felt, I'm not going to say what I saw, but it felt like the vibe of the Cairo scene in Raiders, and it was right in the pocket. And also the fact that it's premiering at Cannes a month before it comes out shows that they are confident about it. And the fact that they gave him a Star Wars movie before it came out shows that they're very confident about it. So, and he's going to write his movie, so he has full control over it. And we're going 50 billion years in the past or whatever, 25,000 years. I feel like he's just such a concrete, like when you think James Mangold's making Star Wars, I don't think that's going to be one of those ones where it's like, and then it never happened. I think that movie's definitely going to happen. It's going to be made, and he's going to crush it. So I'm going Mangold.
Yeah, for me, I'm actually going to go with the Mangold too.
All right, buddy.
I think the reason for that one is the 25,000 years before. I just think that's the thing that was interesting when they did the Rian Johnson story. He's going to be directing something over here, the way they did that. And I think everybody was like, that's the most intriguing part. Over here, what does that mean? How different is it really going to be? Like,
can do
they're going to
anything,
have light speeds. They're not going to have hyperspace.
Yeah.
Hyperspace didn't even come around in the High Republic. 25,000 years ago, what does that even look like? Very excited for that one.
Am I myself if I didn't say Daisy Ridley? Imagine if I was like, the James Mangold movie. Daisy Ridley, her coming back. I've been saying it for years now that I want her back. These guys were like, it's too early. Clearly not. Clearly not.
Wonder if for your employee, if you have a certain pick.
Well, for that, yes, definitely. I mean, I'm very excited to see Daisy back, and I think the reaction in the room was very.
It was mostly me, Brian.
I did
It was
hear
mostly
you. Yeah, but I think the reaction in the room to her coming out was just electric, and I think that kind of sums up how people really felt about her.
I can't wait to see John Boyega back.
Well, who can say? Yeah.
Because if she's there, he better be there.
Well, I'm very excited for that because hopefully I'll get to go back
And
and do my
Brian
friend
better
again.
be there.
I'm really jazzed for all of them actually. The sort of the culmination, the kind of end game of the whole Mando.
Verse,
Filoni,
yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting what you were saying about will one of the Ghost crew die. I think if one of the Ghost crew's going,
It's them.
they're going then.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Wow, that's a good point.
Do it.
All right.
That's a downer, wasn't it?
Probably
Do you have another question? One more?
Do one more.
Let's do another one.
Oh.
Here, yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Chris from the UK.
Hi, Chris from the UK.
Chris.
What's your favorite
Hello,
color?
Chris.
Purple. Solid. Yeah.
Prince.
Will there be a new Skywalker in the Daisy?
Oh, will she have a daughter or a son? Yo.
What are you looking at me for?
I didn't even consider that. I haven't gotten past the fact that she was on stage. 15 years is a long time. Ooh. But
Well, we know it's not with Ben, but
too soon.
Dude, read
I don't
the
have a
room.
spray bottle, but
Read
if I
the
did,
room, dude.
you would be wet right now. Man, I would love that. That is such a great question. I haven't even honestly thought about what the plot could be, but 15 years is as a now a mom, it happens very fast when you decide to do it. I would love that. I would genuinely love that, and I hope that that's what happens, because I think it would just be a new, exciting story to tell, and she has more, I guess, skin in the game. Because Rey as a character, there's no way you look at her and think she doesn't want a family. That's all she wants. So for her to have children would be such a wonderful moment. I would say, I'm going to say yes because I want to see it. That is a great question.
Yeah.
Genuine reaction from me.
Definitely something that we haven't thought about yet. We all haven't had enough
a
time
great
to
question.
process a lot of the stuff that has been coming out, and we're keep getting bombarded. That is an amazing idea, and I obviously think that the Skywalker name has to carry on. They're not going to do another Rey's the last one or something, and then how it played out again. So I'm going to say yes, she's definitely going to have kids, but I'm thinking off the top of my head what would be interesting is to do twins. And
Again?
and don't.
It's poetry.
well-
It rhymes.
but actually not for the Luke and Leia reason, but for the Old Republic and,
Jason Solo.
or also that one, like the light and the dark, and they go different paths, and
So one of her kids goes to the dark side type
potentially,
of thing?
yeah.
Man.
No. Everyone lives happily ever
Wait.
after.
Is she going to name one of her
And
kids
somehow Ben
Ben?
Solo shows up.
She might.
Is she going to name one of her kids Ben?
Yes.
Ben Skywalker?
100%.
I'm loving everything that you guys just said. So for the sake of time, I'm going to say yes.
So now you've got Rey, you want BB-8, you want Grogu,
Babu Frick.
Babu Frick,
Babies.
and babies.
The gang's
yeah.
back.
All the B's.
Yeah, that'll happen.
BB-8,
Yeah.
Babu Frick,
Yeah,
babies.
Yeah, that'll I'm sure.
And baby
that won't-
Grogu.
That won't be
And
be
Jack
chaos.
Fish.
That won't be chaos at all, will it? That won't be chaos at all.
Okay, so we have a couple things to do.
Yeah. So do you want to bring up Luke from the Sons of Obi-Wan?
Yes. Luke, where are you? Come on up,
He's
Luke.
got
There we go,
something.
Luke.
He got something he wants to present.
All right, my name's Luke. I'm from the Sons of Obi-Wan Saber Academy. We're a lightsaber school down in Australia, and we teach cognitive and dialectical behaviour therapy through theatre combat to adults, kids, special needs, and those with autism. Now, I met oh damn it, you can see it. I met Mr. Herring in 2017 down at Adelaide, and he's been a huge supporter of the Sons ever since. So I'm going to be making Brian today an honorary member of the Sons of Obi-Wan. With a saber company, you need a saber. So I've made him, we also make sabers as well. Wow. A custom BB-8.
Oh my God. Luke from the Sons of Obi-Wan, everybody.
Thank you, Luke.
One thing really quick.
Yeah.
Every celebrity we give to, we have to do a strength test.
Oh boy.
Don't hit my fingers, it's how I make my money. Okay. All right.
Now, it's hard to follow that, but when Brian and I were chatting about a week ago, we had talked about all the BB-8 merch that was lacking in the show store, and I had said in 2016 there was this really cool shirt, and he's like, yeah, I've been on the hunt for one, I can't find one. Well, Brian, I found you one.
Oh, wow. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, that's very cool.
Mind the droid.
Well, I'm glad I turned up now. Look at that swag.
Tell your friends, Brian. Tell your friends.
Absolutely.
Come on.
Thank you
resist.
so much.
We're definitely winding down. We're going to have to get out of this room pretty quick.
Yeah.
So definitely meet us. We're going to go to that room at the end of the hallway to do any photos or meet and greet. Or we also have extra prints and stickers and stuff if anybody wants them. But go ahead. Go do your thing.
Yeah, so I just want to thank everybody again for showing up. It means a great deal to us. I always get a little nervous at the beginning, but then when I see faces that I'm familiar with, it makes me feel like I'm at home because I'm a long, far away from home. And but I want to thank London. I want to thank Lucasfilm. I want to thank our guest BB-8. He left. He's got help, right? But Brian, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been lovely. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Stay for a photo. Oh my God. Stay for a photo.
Yeah, we're going to do a quick selfie, but from the three of us here at TRB, thank you again. And until next time, we'll see you around, kids.